Okay, so I just saw Toy Story 4 in theaters yesterday, and I have so much to talk about. So if you don't want any spoilers for Toy Story 4, I suggest you leave immediately, as this will be entirely discussing Toy Story 4 in the future generation of Toy Story as a series. So, as you all know, Toy Story 4 begins 9 years before Toy Story 3, really. Or before Toy Story 3. It begins 9 years where basically where it left off, somewhere between there. And it shows kind of like what happened to Bonnie during Toy Story 3, because Bonnie doesn't appear at all in Toy Story 3, and it's quite elaborated on. They actually gave her away during like the transition between places, and Bonnie got a new owner. And Woody wants to go with Bonnie at first, but actually Woody and Encore's like Bonnie to stay, but ultimately she chooses not to. And before that, there's an RC car in like a water ditch that they're trying to rescue, and they do all this elaborate stuff, and they successfully rescue it. But the main course of problem here is that Bonnie leaves, which explains very well why she isn't in Toy Story 3 at all. So, judging because it's 9 years earlier, I'd say it takes place before Toy Story 3, but after Toy Story 2. Um, and it shows us like currently Bonnie's situation at kindergarten, and like she has to go to kindergarten without bringing a toy, but Woody sides against this and goes with Bonnie, and to helps her create a toy. And he narrowly gets caught by the kids. Not really, but he does like super fast, and he helps Bonnie make a really cool invention called Forky. And Forky, he's a really he's a black sheep of the toys, because he's barely considered a toy since he was made. I think the reason the toys are alive is because the children's imagination keeps them alive. And it's funny because Forky's like, at the very end, they're like, but how are we alive? And he's like, I don't know. But it's widely explained he's imagination. And there's this running gag where the only way Forky, and again, spoiler alert, really enlightens himself and designates that he's purposeful for, or that he's really purpose for Bonnie is, he likes being in the trash because it's warm, soft, and friendly, and it's trash. Well, Woody argues that you are Bonnie's trash, and he's like, oh, yeah, that's really good, and then I must get back to Bonnie. But before that, there's a sequence, and I thought it's a little dragged on, where he keeps trying to discard himself. And by throwing himself in the trash several times over, and when he has to keep bailing him out, and it gets a little annoying, but not too annoying. And basically, they end up on a road trip because to celebrate, like going to kindergarten for a reception. They wanted to do a road trip since kindergarten doesn't begin 7 days. So they get to this carnival. And, before they even get to the carnival, Forky, as you all know, he finally manages to escape the RV because they're traveling in an RV, and he flies out the window. Woody goes out of his way to save Forky, but he ends up, like, explaining, like, just how much he misses his own owner. And, like, at the very beginning of the movie, I forgot to mention this, but Woody literally isn't really played with, and it's kind of sad because Andy in the third movie, I think he's like, now this is Woody. He is my very special toy. Take extra good care of him. And then Bonnie kind of neglects to take care of him because he literally collects a dust bunny. And what's really disheartening is she rips the sheriff badge. She kind of pulls the sheriff badge off of Woody and gives it to Jesse, which kind of undermines what Andy had in mind. But it is what it is. But so they get to the carnival, and there's so much to explain. And through a series of events, Woody, trying to get back to Bonnie, meets Bo Peep again. and they're like in this antique shop, and the antique shop is really disturbing. Like it makes Lotso from Toy Story 3 look like a literal hugging bear. The ending of this movie makes Forrest Gump look like a Cabbage Patch. But anyway, basically, short story short, they find a way to get around like people noticing them by traveling in the skunk kind of RC control thing, and the movie takes quite a dark turn. Um, Bonnie ultimately declares like she's had it with people owning her as a toy. She just wants to live her own life, and they see an entire. They wonder, I wonder, what's the world like, and they really want to see the world, and it's really depressing. So you might know where I'm going with this. But there's this doll. There's this. I don't remember her name. The movie began sooner than you may think. But there's this baby doll who's in a miscarriage, and there's these weird puppets, kind of like Goosebumps. You know that Goosebumps episode with the talking puppets? Well, they're like mobster kind of characters wearing like black suits and ties, and one of them's called Vincent, and they're not really nice. They're not evil, but they're kind of shady. Not gonna lie. Ultimately, you think the baby doll's really nice, but she wants Woody's voice box, which has to be the scariest villain plot in the entire Toy Story series, and that's saying a lot. But anyway, then there's this other part where these two stuffed toys want to get adopted, and they're really funny because at first Buzz Lightyear tries to save Woody, but then he ends up on this like toy rack, and that's where we meet two new characters. I mean, we get to see a lot of characters, but the two that really matter are like these stuffed critters, and they're really funny. They talk about like at the plot of saving Forky, how they're like, I know how to get the key. Well, basically they're like trying to hustle the lady the first two times. Then on the very last one, they act coy and drag it out. We see the old lady taking a bath. Okay, we see the old lady naked taking a bath. Like there's no nudity, of course, but we see her taking a bath. And then right before she goes to bed, they rise up like are about ready to strike, and then there's a loud scream outside the house. So this movie is nothing short of humorous, but because they had to put in a lot of humor before the final conclusion of the movie. But anyway, as you all know, it kind of happens like in Toy Story 1 and 2 and maybe 3 to something, where like the toys refuse to help Woody because they already failed once. So they ultimately So Woody ultimately goes back and tries to save Forky to make Bonnie happy. And he's confronted as soon as he enters the building. Like as soon as he's in like the first hallway, she gets confronted by this baby doll, like that I mentioned earlier. And she's like, and the mobsters are slowly creaking in. Woody has like the sharpened pencil ready to stab someone. But then she's like, I just want a chance. I just want a chance at love. And there's this girl called Harmony, and she really wants to impress Harmony. And it gets really dark here, really dark. In two ways, actually. So, Woody ultimately sees just how important Harmony is to the baby doll, and he makes the ultimate sacrifice to have his voice box cut out. And it's really the most traumatizing thing I have ever seen in the entire Toy Story series. Definitely by far. Definitely by far. Like, oh my gosh. That was easily the darkest part in the entire Toy Story series. Like, forget the arm stitching scene. Like, this is really dark. So, anyway, the baby doll gets her voice from Woody, and I don't know how, but her voice, instead of having Woody's voice, like it has like her actual instinct voice. Like I don't know what they exactly removed, but they removed his audio, which kind of makes me sad because now he can't do the little gestures anymore. Like there's a snake in my boot and all that. For a second, when the doll was like closing in on Woody, I thought she was gonna like kidnap him and it was gonna be like another plot, but nope, it's just really sad. So you must think for Woody losing his special voice track that it would have been made up for because she would have finally been accepted by Harmony. Well, that's a big fat no. And let me tell you why. Because she literally picks up the baby doll and it's like, you almost think you get conclusion to that, but she's like, nah, I'm just going to get my newer toy. And it literally breaks her heart. And she's just laying in there like, you can have your audio track back. Nobody wants me. And I kind of feel bad for her. But at the same time, she wanted to rip Woody's audio track out. And then Woody's like, there is another girl called Bonnie. And she's just waiting to meet you. And through a series of events, they go and try and get to Bonnie. But then she meets another girl who's completely lost. And, like, she's like, that girl's sad. And she can't go on any further. And then, like, Woody's like, well, then go help her. Help be a toy and help her find her parents. And then she's like, well, what if she doesn't like me? He's like, you'll never know if you don't try. It's better than being up on a shelf for so long. And, she helps out the crying girl, and she finds her parents, and she's like, this doll also saved me. So long, Woody's voice box, or one special track, and then it gets pretty sad really quickly. So there's a lot of humor, but there's this final moment where they're trying to extend like kind of drag out like the whole vacation thing by like the toys messing with the car. Like there's literally Jesse sticking a rusted nail in the tire to purposely drag on the vacation, and they're like, the toys like mess with the GPS, like say go right, and literally get the dad in so much trouble. Just to show you how much they respect Woody. And then yet Woody ultimately decides that he wants to stay with Bonnie and purposely gets left behind. And I have to tell you guys to keep in mind, Tom Hanks, the voice of Woody, was almost broken into tears filming the scene. And while it's not quite as depressing as like I initially thought it would have probably been, it's still quite sad because for a toy we've grown to love for 20 years finally departs. And there's a couple of characters I definitely miss, but there's one last thing I have to mention about Toy Story 4 is that there's this action figure with, I don't know its name, but it's like wearing white camo, and my brother and he didn't get high-fived, and I was a little sad about that because we didn't high-five him. And like Junior was like, wait until the very end, because they usually put something at the very end for people who stay in the theater. And I was like, fine, I don't see why not. It's the last Toy Story movie pretty much, because you know Woody ain't gonna be, there ain't going to be another Toy Story because they would have to separate the two toys. And Woody and Buzz are too critical of a character to separate. But anyway, if you stay, I really encourage you to stay at the end of the credits. And I'm probably going to say this even in my non-spoiler review, but not exactly to this extent. Because that one Arctic soldier that doesn't get a high five in the movie, at the very end, there's this amazing figure, the stuntman called Amazing Canada something. I'm sorry, I forgot his name. And like this guy is like, high five, and then the Canadian stuntman's like, and the movie literally closes as soon as they high five, and they're on the Pixar screen, and some guy on the screen was like, yeah, and it was literally one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Not the funniest thing in the movie or I've ever seen, but it was really funny seeing that. Really somber movie, and you know. There definitely, most likely, won't be a fifth Toy Story just because of how the fifth one ended. But it was a really good movie. I was anxiously waiting there for a few minutes, and I really enjoyed the movie. Really sad. I wasn't exactly satisfied with the ending because part of me wanted Woody to stay, but I knew pretty much after he lost his voice track that probably wouldn't have happened because Bonnie would have pulled his string. No, the toy would be broken. What makes it really sad too is Andy said, this is my most favorite toy. Take very good care of him. And then Bonnie's probably gonna realize a few years later that Woody's gonna be missing. And it's gonna be tragic because she's gonna think she lost him at the carnival, which she technically did, but not through her own means, and it's probably gonna haunt her because Woody literally collected a dust bunny, and that doesn't make it any less sad. But yeah, it's a really sad movie. Gave us quite a few punch gags before it ended, but that clapping part, that was literally the end of the movie. That happened at the real end of the credits. But honestly, I'm gonna review Toy Story 4 now. I wouldn't say it's perfect, like I said before to my brother, but it's a 10 out of 10 movie. It's the last in the series, and it holds up and really prepares you for the ending. Like, I knew the ending was gonna be sad, but I still, there was nothing to prepare me for that ending. It makes Toy Story 3's ending look like a water fountain compared to like just, it was just sad. Wow. And man, all the effort Buzz went through to save him, and like what Andy said, it just kind of makes me sad. But Toy Story 4 is a good movie. I'd recommend you go out right now and see it as soon as possible. And yeah, I really recommend it. Now, I might follow up and do a non-spoiler review of Toy Story 4, but we'll just see if there's a high demand for it. But until then, peace out.